Hey, back again. Time for another round of upgrades. I'm Gilligan here. This is going to be a big one. Yeah, and I mean that literally, actually. Last video where we were wheeling out in Southington, Ohio. Hope you watched it. Pretty cool place. Came to the realization that I'm going to have to make a major change on the truck. Something I just didn't ever plan to do, didn't want to do, didn't think that I could do it, but it turns out I can. And what it is I found out at that particular park, you've seen the video, I got hung up a lot that day, even some that didn't even make it on video, where the rear axle, the front pinion guard on my 9-inch, hung up on rocks, got hung up on my rear sway bar, just hung up on all kinds of things. The problem is, sitting on 35-inch tires, you air them down, we air down to 8 PSI for that day, and you lose a lot of ground clearance. Nice to have these, nice size 35-inch tires, but then once you drop them down to 8 PSI, I'm probably losing a couple inches of ground clearance once they flatten out, so I need bigger tires. And the other thing is everybody that I wheel with, all my buddies and their Jeeps on, the daily drivers, they're all on 37s, and the vast majority of them are on 40s now. So little guy's getting left behind here, and I don't like that. So we're gonna make a serious change here. And I'm also, I don't know, who knows how long this video is gonna be. I may have to cut this up into a couple, but I have a lot of plans for this go around here. I'm adding proper seatbelt harnesses to the truck now because I'm tired of getting bounced around in there, trying to fish out the factory seat belts between the seats. It's a pain in the ass, so I'm done with it. So got me some nice G-force harnesses. Gonna mount those in there. I probably will be doing a cage, might not be in this video. Also, I'm finally gonna do a major upgrade to the front end that I've been wanting to do for a while. So I'll get to that in a minute here, but first let me show you the first part of the upgrades, what I'm really excited about. Let's check that out real quick. So currently on Gilligan, I have the Pro Comp 15 by 10 inch wheels, 35 by 1250. On the truck, they are KM2s. And when I needed a new spare, I just went ahead and got the new KM3s, since the KO2s will obviously be going out of production. So new KM3, really like that tire. Anyway, so that's the tire and wheel combo on the truck now. So what I'm doing now is I am stepping up, and I made a little purchase here. Picked up some new Method 17 by 9, and gonna be a whole lot more modern looking wheel setup on this. Being that it's a 17 by 9, problem I found is the back spacing required on these trucks. Nobody makes a 17-inch wheel that's going to work right out of the box on this truck. So the back spacing on these wheels is about 1 inch more than what the Pro Comp, the 15-inch ones, have. So I am going to be running a set of wheel spacers, and they are 1.25 inches. So I'll end up with a little more width to the truck with those, but that will get my back spacing back to where I need it. I did order some actual ARP 3-inch long studs, because I just don't trust the ones they put in those spacers. Who knows where they're made? So got some good ARP studs coming for this. Did have to put my own little touch on the wheels there. But these are the new, these are the 701 Trail Series, and I had tossed around for a while about going beadlocks on the truck, and I just can't swallow $350, $400 a wheel for a beadlock wheel. And I've never ever lost a bead on the truck, even down at 8 PSI. I've never lost a bead. So I don't know if I can justify the price and the additional weight of going to beadlocks on the truck. So I discovered these Method wheels that have what they call Bead grip technology. Does that sound fancy or what? Basically what they're doing, you can see on the bead of the wheel here, it's like a hose barb. They have these sharp edges machined into the bead, and then this is a really hard edge right here also, and they have it on both sides of the wheel. And the stuff that I've seen online of guys testing these things out, I've seen guys go down to 5 psi on these things and deliberately trying to knock a bead off. Couldn't do it. So I think this is going to be a great compromise between a full bead lock and then what I have. So I should still have no problems in the future, but this will at least allow me to go much lower air pressures and be safer, because they're not here yet. I picked up a set of 37-inch BFG KM3s. So we're going 37s on the truck. The only thing I'm disappointed about is these KM2s are a C load range tire, and anything 37 and up is D load range. So it is going to be a stiffer tire. So my thinking is I'm going to probably, since this truck is not that heavy, I mean, we're around 4,000 pounds, I'll probably have to run, single-digit air pressures probably all the time to get them to, roll up and grab things as good as what these things do at, 10 or 12 psi. So that was the thinking behind getting these wheels. So I have this little bit of extra insurance right here, and really looking forward to getting these on there. Now, I shopped and shopped and shopped trying to find the right wheel and tire combination for this. Like I said, the whole back spacing issue, something I didn't anticipate. And then a lot of these aftermarket wheels, you really have to watch, especially for these trucks that have if you're running a Ford axle with the big hubs and the lockouts that stick through the wheel, you need to be aware of the bore size of the wheel that you're picking. Because I did find a lot of wheels that I liked that just did not have the center bore at the correct diameter, so they would not have worked on the front of this truck. So when you're out looking at wheels, be aware of that. Same thing when it came to the wheel adapters. I had to make sure that I found ones that had the proper board in the center of that also. My original plan was I was just going to run an adapter to go from 5 on 5.5 to 5 on 5 inch. And then I could pick from all the wheel options all the Jeep guys have. I figured that'd open up a world of possibilities for me until I discovered the bore size on all those Jeep wheels. None of them are big enough. So that kind of shot a hole in that. So again, these are specific, Ford 5 on 5.5 bolt pattern. They have the correct bore size. So don't make a mistake if you're out shopping for wheels. Just make sure you pay attention to that. So there it is. There's the new setup for the truck. Hopefully the tires will be here before I finish making this video. That would be nice. And now for the other major upgrade. What you're looking at here is a 1979 Bronco, full-size Bronco, Dana 44. Same as what would come in an F-150 78, 79. The difference between this axle and the early Bronco Dana 44 that's in Gilligan right now is this one here is a high pinion, and the early Bronco Dana 44s are a low pinion. This axle on this side is 6 inches wider than an early Bronco axle. Everything from here over, they're identical, other than being the pinion, high pinion and low pinion. So the problem I do have is pinion angle and steering geometry. Everything I've done on this truck has kind of been a compromise. You can kind of currently see where the pinion angle is on the truck. Right there. The problem is I can't fix that pinion angle by rotating the axle up anymore without completely screwing my caster angles for the steering geometry. And the truck, it steers okay, but I want it to steer a lot better. I think I can fix a lot of my steering geometry issues by going to that high pinion Dana 44. It'll move the pinion center line up much higher, so it'll lessen that steep angle on the drive shaft, which will then allow me to actually put the correct caster bushings in my radius arms and get some more caster out of this thing, so it'll actually go down the road a heck of a lot better. The other issue is this truck, when you are doing it really steep hill climbs, or if you flex out the driver's side front corner of this, let it droop down all the way, because of that pinion angle, my front drive shaft will go into bind right at the point where the front suspension maxes out. The double cardan joint will start to click and pop because it's binding. Yeah, I could throw a limit strap on it and stop it just prior to that, but with only 10 inches of suspension travel in these shocks, I don't really want to limit it any more than what it is. I want to fix it. So this axle is going to allow me to do that. So here I'm going to show you how I plan to take that full width axle, and we're going to cut that thing down 6 inches. And we're going to make it fit this truck. And then once I have the housing done, I have new reverse rotation 456 gears, and we have a new Yukon zip locker. This is their version of an air locker. So I'm going to set that up, and I'm going to run it off my power tank. I bought these from Power Tank. All I'm going to have to do is plug this right into my power tank, regulate it to 100 psi. This line will go from the back of the truck where the power tank is up to wherever I want to mount this. And literally, it's an on and off switch to operate the locker. Yukon does provide a solenoid and a switch and everything to run it off an air compressor. That's all included in there. It's a great deal. I'm going to try to do it with less parts that could fail for me, I guess you could say. So I'm going to try this just mechanical way of just using the switch. I also picked up a new Dana diff cover for it. So the nice thing is once this is all cut down and done, my current RCV axle shafts, I'll pull right out of that axle and put them right into that one over there. So let's get started. So I'm in the middle of pulling the front axle out of the truck right now. Don't mind my little homemade truck stand. But I made an interesting discovery here. What I found was, I was pulling this side apart, pulling the steering, I noticed as soon as I popped this tie rod out of the knuckle, this whole axle dropped about 2 more inches before it actually bottomed out the shock. And what I'm finding is, if you look right here, the drag link for the steering, I got probably 3 inches there where this does not want to go down that far. That high angle tie rod up there in the pitman arm does not have enough angle in it. You can see how far off that is. So as soon as I popped that out, this whole side of the axle dropped another 3 inches. So apparently that part of the steering was limiting the travel on this side of the truck. So we're gonna have to look into a different solution for that. So something else I've always been lacking on this front end setup is limit straps on both sides. I did try running a center limit strap on it to hold the front end down when you're doing some of them steep climbs and stuff. I think I just didn't have a short enough one, so it's gonna work out nicely here. I discovered I can actually bolt this limit strap up to one of the Duff brackets here. Then all I gotta do is weld my little tab right to the top of the control arm, or the radius arm there, and I will have a proper limit strap finally. Woohoo! So here I mocked up the link just to show you here, level there, and then with the tie rod maxed all the way out, got just barely over around 20 degrees, that's it. And I happened to find the old wore out one in my toolbox that I brought along as a spare. You can clearly see I measured this one. This one does have 30 degrees. So this is one that I've been running up until February when I replaced all these. So yeah, they're clearly a different tie rod. So I'm not sure if I just got sent the wrong one or what the deal is. Okay, now to get started on the new front axle portion of the upgrades. So what I got here is my high pinion full width Dana 44 out of a 79, I think it's Bronco, I think is what I was told it came out of. So what I need to do is I need to cut 6 inches of length off this tube over here. So first couple things that I did is I laid a piece of blue masking tape all the way across here, nice straight line. And I used a paint marker to kind of make the line stand out, so I have a reference mark on everything being straight with the center section, the tube, and then the wedge side over here. And what I did was, for a reference, I took a measurement from the center of this plug hole right here to the center of this little button that sticks up over here. What I came up with, this was exactly 18 inches center to center. So that's going to be my reference point. So when I put this back together, I should be exactly 6 inches less than my original 18 inches when I know I have this in the right spot. So what I'm going to start to do now is I am going to grind all of this weld off right here and then whack on it with a big ass hammer. And with any luck, I've never done this before this way, I should be able to knock that off. It looks like there's about, I don't know, 1.5 inches of protrusion into this wedge cast piece from the tube. So it shouldn't take a whole lot of force to knock that off. Once I have that off, I'll have a nice clean tube, subtract my 6 inches from that, chop it, and then I'll go ahead and hammer that back on. And then what I'll do is I will set this up and take an angle, my caster, of that inner C, of what exactly that angle is, and I'll make sure that this one goes on to that same angle. So let's get started on that. Okay, so what I did was took the grinder with the nice heavy grinding wheel on it, and basically went in about a 45-degree angle, and then just went all the way around. Let's see if I can spin the axle here. Whoa. Whoopsie. Safety first. Hold on. Okay, take two. So, you see all the way around, I cut down into that weld, into the tube, and into the very end of that cast wedge, all the way around. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to whack on it with a really big hammer, and then I should see a split line when I finally break the weld that's still holding them together, just very lightly. And once I see that little witness crack, I can go ahead and whale the rest of it off. And hopefully it's as easy as I make it sound. So I made one more pass of the grinder, whaled on it a couple times with the sledge, and there you go. You can see the crack where it's starting to separate right there. So just gotta keep tapping on it. I'm debating on maybe breaking out my torches and maybe even putting some heat in there to expand that a little bit. See if it'll loosen the bite a little bit. But that's how you do it right there. See the crack starting to separate? So I'm gonna keep whaling on it. So I knock that whole wedge off. Well, time for plan B. Yeah, I whaled and whaled and whaled on that wedge, and I could not get it to budge. All I could do is I got the crack where I broke the weld to open up a little bit more, but I was doing more damage to that wedge whaling on it than I was getting anywhere with it. So took a different approach. I went ahead and I just cut it off flush with the end of the wedge, and I sent it over to my buddy's machine shop, and he's actually gonna chuck it up in, I don't know, his mill or whatever machine he chooses, and he's gonna go ahead and cut that remainder of tube out of that wedge So when I get it back, I'll be able to just slide it, press it right back on here. So now I just need to cut the 6 inches off of this, press it on up to that mark right there, and then weld it up. And he's also going to put a hole in it so we can do like a plug weld also. So it'll be welded all the way around the tube, and at least one, if not 2 plug welds in it also to hold it. So I just got to wait for him to get that little piece cut out, call me, I'll go pick it up, and we'll pick this up again. But I think this is actually the better route to go. A lot easier than the time I wasted wailing on that thing for nothing. Well, here we are, following day, and what I ended up doing was taking the wedge part that I cut right off the tube and took it over to my buddy's shop, and actually the remainder of the pipe that was inside here, we went ahead and machined it out to get rid of it. So now I have a nice clean tube to start with, and we also put another hole in it so I can put a plug weld in there after I press this back onto the axle. So here I am. Here's where I'm at with this. So there was 1.5 inches of tube that was inside the wedge. So measured out 1.5 inches back to 6 inches. There's my mark. So that's where I'm going to make the cut on this tube right here. So we're going to get rid of all of this. Then I'll clean all this up so we got a nice smooth surface to hopefully have a tight interference fit, but hopefully I don't have to press it on. And then we'll go ahead and we'll press the wedge on, so the edge of it should end up right about here. I'll take my measurement from the 2 reference points, the one in the center of this hole and the one on the wedge. Get everything lined up. I'll get the caster angle set to match the other side, the other inner C. And then we're gonna go ahead and burn it in, and we should be good. So let me go ahead and get this chopped down and cleaned up. All right, and in case you were wondering how I was going to cut the tube to get a nice, clean, straight edge, I'm gonna be using my big rigid pipe cutter. Tighten that down, spin it around a few times, it cuts through it just like butter. It's amazing. So I'll get this lopped off now. All right, there we go. Got her chopped off. So there's a piece we cut off. That pipe cutter does a pretty good job there. Took a little longer than I remembered, so I definitely don't have to worry about doing my arm workout today, that's for sure. So anyway, I'll go through, clean up this edge, and I'm gonna go ahead and there's a little lip that the cutter leaves on here, so I'll grind all this down and clean up this where it's gonna press in, and we'll go ahead and get everything lined up where it's supposed to be and see how this thing pushes on. So just made a couple passes around the tube with the flap wheel. Took off the little edge that the tubing cutter made. Kind of cleaned up, got rid of the rust, and pretty much slid right on right to this point anyway. I think it'll just take a little bit of tapping to get it on and get my measurement. So I need to drive this roughly to that mark. Then I'll take my measurements from here to here. Originally was 18 inches. I'm gonna subtract 6 from that. And then so what I need to do now is I need to position the axle, get it fixed. Whatever orientation it's going to be, I'll probably just turn the pinion out 90 degrees, and I need to take a caster angle measurement from this inner C and then make sure this one is the same before I go driving it on. So I'm gonna get this all set up and get that measurement first, I think. There we go. Tapped her on. I got 12 inches now from here to here, center of this to the center of that hole. Lined right back up there. There's all my reference marks. And then the hole I drilled, kind of works nice to see how far we're in. So then this will all get filled with weld. So now I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna do one more caster angle check. Make sure everything's the same. If I have to tap this one way or the other to get it to match the other side, I'll do that. Can't show you that because I got to use my phone for the level, so I don't trust my little, the one with the little pointer on it. It's just not that accurate, so yeah. So anyway, let's get this done. All right, everything is lined up the way it sits right now. Both the inner C's have like 15 degrees of caster, but I mean, don't take that number. It doesn't really mean anything other than the way it's sitting right now. And then the tops of these ears are both at 8 degrees. So I know I have this, I have it the correct way this way, and it's this, you know, straight this way too. Strangely enough, though, I did getting it to line up and match the other side. It's not perfectly lined up with my mark anymore, so I have heard of some of these axles having different caster on both C's, so I wonder if this is one that was like that. So anyway, it's all done. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple tacks on probably all, you know, 4 corners of this, hold it in place. Then I'm going to go ahead and break out my big heavy-duty stick welder, and I'm going to burn this thing in good. So here we go. Well, let me introduce you to my little friend we call R2D2. Had to break out the heavy artillery today. And we got her all welded on now. Go ahead and stick welded it all on and filled the plug there. So she's all good. Just got to chip off some slag and wire wheel it down, and we are good to go. Very happy so far. Yeah, not the prettiest with the slag on there. I got to clean that up. But it's burned on and it's good. All right, so now that the wedge is all welded on, that's all done. Now I'm fitting up the Wild Horses track bar riser. I'm gonna get this all tacked in place, make sure everything's good, then we'll go ahead and burn this all in. It's a nice heavy duty piece here. A lot different than the Duff one that comes on that I have on my early Bronco Dana 44. So I had to go with a different style for this full width one because this whole part of the wedge is different than the early Bronco one, so I got to go with this style. So I'm gonna go ahead and burn this one on now. Okay, it's a new day, and to save me a bunch of time, probably at least 2 or 3 days worth of work, I ended up taking the completed axle housing, the gears, the air locker, setup bearings, seals. I took everything over to my friend James, who also does axles all the time. James is going to go ahead and set up the new axle for me. So then all I have to do is get the old early Bronco axle out of the truck and take off my knuckles and my axle shafts. I'm keeping the RCVs. So I can keep working on the truck. I can do the axles. I can do the harnesses. I have a bunch of other little things that I need to keep going on. So I'm going to let James do that for me. And I'm going to go ahead and keep doing everything else that I got to do here. So hopefully this is going to save me 2 or 3 days worth of work. So I only have a few more days off, and I go back to work, and then the schedule's going to get all messed up. So hopefully this works out as planned. So let's get this old Dana 44 out. All right, so we got the spindle out, or got the axle out, spindle's off. Already got the top ball joint busted loose. If I can find the right size wrench for the job, there we go. So now I just gotta bust this other ball joint loose, get the knuckle off, and we'll move over to the other side, and then the only thing left is pull the C-caps off and axle's out. That's it. So I got the passenger side tore apart. Both nuts are off the ball joints. I'm gonna give them a little shock. Four wheels will drop right down. That'll. Careful not to hit the threads. Voila! She's out of here. And oh wow, yeah. Oh yeah. Uppers. Same with the other side. It was loose as hell. And the same. The bottom is still tight on that side. This side it's tight. Yeah. Top definitely wore out, so good time to get these done. Good time. So at this point I got the coil springs out, the lower coil spring retainers, little buckets. So now the only thing left is to take the front C caps off, and the axle is going to dump right out. So we'll get this out, and that is it. Hooey, it's out. There we go. No more axle. Off to its new home. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for this video for now. I'm pretty much out of things to do until I get the new high pinion axle back from my buddy. So we'll go ahead and cut it off here, hopefully pick it up in a day or two, hopefully no more than that. Then I can get flying on putting all the parts back on the truck and see how everything looks at ride height and see how my steering angles all turned out. So wish me luck. So hope you like what you're seeing. See you on the next one.